My brother-in-law told my family he was selling our beach house, not knowing I had secretly bought it years ago. He also had no idea the contractor had exposed his fake documents and was waiting outside with the police. My brother-in-law stood in my dad's living room holding a glass of sparkling cider like he just closed the deal of the century. I knew what was coming. I'd been watching Blake operate for 6 years now, and the man had a tell. That practice smile, the way he'd positioned himself in the center of the room, the slight pause before dropping whatever nonsense he was about to drop. This time was going to be different, though, because what Blake didn't know was that I already knew exactly what he was about to announce. And what he definitely didn't know was that I'd quietly owned that property for the past 5 years. I'm Alex, 28 years old, and I've spent most of my life being the quiet one in my family. Not shy, just observant. While everyone else was talking, I was listening. While they were making announcements, I was making moves. It served me well, especially in my career as a software developer, where attention to detail actually matters. My family never really got that, really. Though, to them quiet meant boring, unambitious, forgettable. Growing up, I learned pretty quick that being loud got you noticed in my family. My brother Ryan was the athletic one, always bringing home trophies and medals. Rachel was the social one, popular and outgoing. I was the one who got straight A's, and nobody mentioned it at dinner because it wasn't exciting enough. I'd win academic competitions, and my parents would say, "That's nice, dear," while practically throwing a parade when Ryan scored a goal in some random soccer game. So I stopped trying to compete for attention. I focused on building actual skills instead of performing for an audience. Taught myself to code in high school, started freelancing in college, graduated with job offers while my classmates were still figuring out their majors. By the time I was 25, I was making 6 figures and living in the city, and my family still thought I was just doing computer stuff because I didn't make a production out of it. My younger sister Rachel married Blake 6 years ago. The guy showed up at a family barbecue one summer, all charisma and confidence, telling stories about his real estate ventures and investment strategies. My parents ate it up. My dad especially loved Blake because Blake talked like my dad wished he could talk. Big dreams, bigger plans, always one deal away from making it huge. The fact that none of these deals ever actually materialized didn't seem to bother anyone. I remember the first time I met Blake, he spent 20 minutes telling me about this amazing investment opportunity in some startup that was going to revolutionize the restaurant industry. I asked basic questions about their business model and revenue projections, and he got this look on his face like I'd personally insulted him. Turned out the startup folded 6 months later. But Blake never mentioned it again. He just moved on to the next big thing, the next guaranteed windfall that somehow never quite panned out. Rachel was head over heels. Blake had this way of making everything sound exciting. Going to the grocery store became an adventure when Blake told the story later. Getting an oil change turned into some elaborate negotiation where he'd saved hundreds through his superior bargaining skills. It was exhausting to watch, but my family loved it. I was the one who showed up with actual accomplishments and got a half-hearted nod, while Blake showed up with stories and got standing ovations. Anyway, back to my dad's living room. It was his birthday dinner. The whole family gathered around. My mom had spent the day cooking. My cousins had driven in from 2 hours away, and everyone was in that good mood that comes from family gatherings where nobody's fighting yet. Blake had been unusually quiet during dinner, which should have been my first warning sign. The man didn't do quiet unless he was planning something. After dessert, Blake cleared his throat and raised his glass. The room went silent because that's what rooms do when Blake wants attention. He's got that presence, the kind that makes people stop mid-sentence and look. "Big announcement, everyone," Blake said, flashing that megawatt smile. "I've got some exciting news to share." Rachel touched his arm, beaming like he was about to announce he'd won the lottery. My mom leaned forward. My dad set down his fork. Everyone gave Blake exactly what he wanted. Their complete attention. "I'm flipping the family beach house," Blake announced, pausing for effect. "Got the permits, approvals, renovations are almost done. Should clear a solid profit by spring." The room erupted. My dad clapped Blake on the shoulder, saying something about initiative and good business sense. My uncle Greg raised his glass in a toast. My cousins crowded around asking questions about square footage and contractor costs and whether Blake had kept the original fixtures. I just sat there sipping my cider, watching this performance unfold like I was watching a really bad magician who thought the audience couldn't see the wires. Because here's what they didn't know. What Blake apparently didn't know, I knew. I'd bought that beach house 5 years ago quietly. No family announcement, no group text, no big reveal, just me, a real estate attorney named Stephen Park, and county records that clearly showed my name on the deed. Blake had never owned it. He'd never been anywhere near owning it. He just lied like he always did, except this time, he'd picked the wrong property to lie about. The deck restoration was the expensive part. Blake continued gesturing with his glass like he was conducting an orchestra, but I negotiated the contractor down. Guy wanted $23,000. I got him to $18,000. My cousin Jessica leaned in genuinely interested. Is it still the blue shutters or did you repaint? Keeping the blue? Blake said smoothly. Classic coastal charm? Buyers eat that up. I almost laughed. The shutters were green, had been green since 1987. My grandmother had painted them herself and refused to change them despite my grandfather's complaints that they looked like mint toothpaste. But Blake wouldn't know that because Blake had probably never actually been to the house. He'd just seen some photos and decided to build a whole fantasy around it. Rachel squeezed his arm. He's been working so hard on this. Weekends, evenings, I barely see him anymore. Investment takes sacrifice, my dad said approvingly. Good man, Blake. Someone needed to do something with that place. Someone had been doing something with that place. Me. I'd been renting it out seasonally through a property management company for 5 years, making quiet, steady income while living my life 3 hours away in the city. The beach house had been my grandmother's. When she passed, none of my siblings wanted to deal with it. Too much maintenance, too many memories too far from their suburban lives. My brother Ryan had actually said one less thing to worry about when I'd offered to buy it from the estate. The beach house meant something to me, though. Grandma and I used to spend summers there when I was a kid. While my siblings were off at sports camps and social events, I'd be at the beach house helping Grandma with repairs, learning how to fix a leaky faucet, how to paint trim properly, how to maintain property. She taught me that real wealth wasn't about showing off. It was about building something solid and making it work for you. When she died, I knew nobody else would appreciate the place like I did. So I made an offer to the estate. Fair market value, nothing sneaky. My siblings were relieved. They got cash, I got the property. Everyone was happy. Or so I thought. So I did. Hired Stephen Park, paid fair market value to the estate, handled all the paperwork. The whole transaction took 6 weeks. I didn't make a big deal about it because that's not how I operate. I just handled my business and moved on. I spent the first year making improvements. New roof, updated electrical, fresh paint inside and out. Then I hired a property management company to handle seasonal rentals. Summer weeks went for $3,000, shoulder season for $1,500. The place stayed booked solid April through October. After expenses, I was clearing $35,000 a year in passive income. Not life-changing money, but solid returns on a property I loved. My family never asked about it, never wondered who was maintaining Grandma's house, never questioned who was paying the property taxes. They just assumed it was sitting there empty because that's what happened to family properties nobody wanted. Their lack of curiosity made Blake's lie that much easier. Apparently, Blake saw opportunity in my silence. When do you list it? Uncle Greg was asking. March, Blake said confidently. Spring market is killer for beach properties. I'm thinking we list at $650,000. See what happens. We like he had partners, like he had any claim whatsoever to property that had my name stamped all over the legal documentation. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out discreetly, glancing at the screen. Unknown number. The text read, "Is this Alex Bennett, the owner of 847 Cabs Lane?" I felt my stomach drop. This couldn't be good. I excused myself to the kitchen, moving away from Blake's performance in the living room. Yes, I typed back. Who's this? 3 dots appeared immediately. Tony Morales. We need to talk about Blake Foster. I stared at my phone, read the message 3 times, took a breath. What about him? He hired me to renovate your property. Said he owned it. I've been working for 3 weeks. He owes me $15,000 and now he won't return my calls. The kitchen suddenly felt very small. I could hear Blake in the next room, still holding court, still collecting congratulations like they were currency he could spend. And here I was holding evidence that he'd just escalated from harmless lying to actual fraud. Are you at the property now? I typed. No, but I can meet you tomorrow morning. I'm in the city. Can you send me photos of the work and any contracts you signed? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. He said this was his family's beach house, that he was handling the flip personally. Are you telling me he doesn't own it? He's never owned it? Send me everything you have. The photos started coming through. New deck railings half installed, bathroom fixtures ripped out, sitting in boxes, fresh drywall compound on the walls, work I hadn't authorized, changes I hadn't approved. Then came the contract. Blake's signature, my property address, and permit numbers I didn't recognize. I pulled up the county permit system on my phone, checked each number against the database. Nothing. The permits didn't exist. Blake had forged county documents. Mr. Morales? I typed carefully. I'm the legal owner. I have the deed and county records to prove it. Blake has defrauded you. I think you should contact the police. Are you serious? Completely. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I never authorized any renovations, never hired you, and never agreed to pay for anything. This is fraud. Jesus. Do you have his address? I have the address where I'm supposed to send the invoice. Someplace in Riverside County. That was where Blake and Rachel lived, 20 minutes from here. From this house where Blake was currently lying to my entire family. Send me copies of everything I wrote, every text, every email, every photo. I'll forward it to my attorney and we'll figure out next steps. He said the permits were approved. He showed me paperwork. It was forged. There was a long pause. Then I've been in construction for 12 years. I've seen some shady stuff. But this? Yeah, what do you want me to do? I thought about that, about Blake in the next room, accepting praise for a project that didn't exist. About Rachel, who had no idea she'd married a con artist. About my family, who'd always liked Blake more than they'd liked me because he was charming and I was quiet. For now, document everything I typed. I'll call you tomorrow. We'll figure this out. Okay. I went back into the living room. Blake was explaining his renovation timeline to my cousin, who worked in commercial real estate and should have known better than to take Blake at face value. The bathroom is the key. Blake was saying buyers will pay a premium for a good bathroom. Luxury fixtures, heated floors, the works. Heated floors in a beach house that would be used 3 months a year. Sure, my dad caught my eye. Dad caught my... Alex, come tell Blake about that investment property you looked at in Portland. I'd mentioned it once 6 months ago at a different family dinner. I was surprised my dad remembered. I walked over, stood next to Blake, looked him straight in the eye. How's the renovation going? I asked, keeping my tone pleasant. Great, Blake said without hesitation. Contractor's solid, works ahead of schedule. That's unusual. I know, right? Got lucky with this guy. What's his name? Blake blinked. Who? Your contractor? Oh, Tony. Tony Morales. And he's been responsive. Good communication. Yeah. Why? I smiled. Just curious. Contractors can be tough to manage. Not this one. Professional operation. I nodded slowly. Good to hear. Rachel joined us, sliding her arm through Blake's. He's being modest. He's been so stressed about the permits and the timeline and making sure everything's up to code. The permits came through. Okay, I asked. Finally, Blake said, Blake County took forever, but yeah, all approved. That's great. Which permits did you file? He looked at me like I was speaking another language. The standard ones. Building permit, electrical, plumbing, no structural. The deck's not structural, it's a replacement. County usually requires structural review for deck replacements. Weight load calculations. Blake's smile tightened. My contractor handled it. Good contractor, I said. Rachel was looking at me strangely. Why all the questions? Just interested, I said. Real estate stuff. You know me. She didn't know me. None of them did. They knew quiet Alex, who worked in software development and didn't talk much at family gatherings. They didn't know about the rental income I'd been quietly generating for 5 years. They didn't know I'd been studying property law in my spare time after some rental disputes. They didn't know I had a real estate attorney on retainer. They definitely didn't know I was watching my brother-in-law commit fraud in real time. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked the door, called Stephen Park. He answered on the second ring. Alex, it's Saturday night. This better be good. My brother-in-law is renovating my beach house without my permission using forged permits. Silence. Say that again. I explained everything. The announcement, the contractor, the photos, the fake permit numbers. Stephen whistled low. That's fraud. Like actual criminal fraud. I know. Have you contacted the police? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. You need to file a report tonight and you need to document everything. Every conversation, every text, every photo that contractor sends you. What about my family? What about them? They think he's legitimate. Rachel's married to him. Alex? Stephen's voice went serious. He's committing fraud using your property. He's lying to a contractor. He's forging government documents. This isn't a family dispute. This is a crime. I know. So what do you want to do? I looked at myself in the mirror. Quiet. Alex overlooked Alex. Alex who never made waves. I want to let him hang himself. I said. Stephen was quiet for a moment. Meaning he's announced the flip publicly to my entire family. He's committed. He can't back out now without admitting he lied. Okay. So I'm going to document everything. Let him keep talking, and when the time is right, I'm going to show everyone exactly who he is. That's risky. What if he causes more damage to your property? The contractor's legitimate. He's not going to trash the place. And honestly, the work probably needed to be done anyway. I'll just make sure Blake pays for it through legal channels. Through legal channels, Stephen, you're my client, so I'll support you. But Alex, be careful. Family stuff gets messy, and this guy sounds desperate. I'll be careful. I hung up and went back to the party. Blake was showing someone photos on his phone. Before pictures, he was explaining. Place was a disaster. Hasn't been updated since the 90s. I'd updated the kitchen in 2021. New appliances, new countertops, new backsplash. The photos he was showing were from a real estate listing I'd seen online for a completely different property. This wasn't just fraud. This was elaborate, premeditated fraud. I stayed for another hour, watched Blake collect congratulations, like currency, watched Rachel glow with reflected pride, watched my dad pat Blake on the back and say things like, "Always knew you had it in you." And that's how you build wealth. Nobody asked me how I was doing. Nobody asked about my job or my life or whether I'd been to the beach house recently. I was invisible like always, which it turned out was exactly where I needed to be. I met Tony Morales 2 days later at a coffee shop in Riverside County. He was mid-40s, weathered hands, tired eyes. He brought a file folder 6 inches thick and looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've been doing this for 12 years, he said, spreading documents across the table. "I've worked with homeowners, investors, flippers. Thought I could spot a con from a mile away. Turns out I was wrong." "Tell me how he approached you." Job board posting said he'd inherited a family beach house and wanted to modernize it for resale. Had photos, detailed plans, seemed professional. Tony showed me the original posting. It looked legitimate. He gave me the address. Said he had the permits ready. Met me at a coffee shop, though not the property. Said he was too busy with work. That should have been a red flag. Legitimate owners meet contractors on site. Did he show you proof of ownership? Said his name wasn't on the deed yet, that it was still in his grandmother's estate. Showed me what looked like estate documents. Looking back, those were probably forged too. My grandmother. Blake had used my grandmother's passing to legitimize his con. "When did you start working?" 3 weeks ago. "About 40 hours of labor plus materials. Deck lumber was 7,000. Bathroom fixtures another 4,000. I'm into this for 15,000 already." I showed him my deed, county records, tax documents going back 5 years. "This is the property. My name. I bought it from my grandmother's estate 5 years ago. Blake's never had any claim to this property." Tony stared at the screen. He said his grandmother just passed. Talked about how hard it was dealing with the estate. She died 6 years ago. Estate closed 5.5 years ago. Jesus. "Do you have the permits he showed you?" Tony pulled out photocopies. I opened my laptop, logged into the county permit system, checked each number. "These are fake," I said. "These permit numbers don't exist in the county database." "How did he forge them?" "Probably found a template online, changed the numbers, printed them out. Most contractors don't verify every permit number unless they have reason to be suspicious." "I verified the address," Tony said defensively. "I verified the property exists. I didn't think to verify the permit numbers, because why would someone go through all that trouble to fake them? Because he's desperate or compulsive, or both." I pulled up more county records. Property tax payments, all current, all paid by me. Rental income documentation, 5 years of legitimate property management. I need to file a police report. Tony said you should. I'm going to file one too. When? After I talked to my sister. Tony looked at me. "She doesn't know." "I don't think so. She seems genuinely happy for him." "You're going to tell her husband's a fraud. I'm going to show her the evidence and let her draw her own conclusions." Tony leaned back in his chair. "You're a better man than me. I'd burn him down immediately." "Oh, I'm going to burn him down," I said. "I'm just going to do it thoroughly." That night I called Rachel. "Hey," she sounded cheerful. "What's up? Can we have coffee? Just you and me?" "Sure. Is everything okay? I need to talk to you about something." Pause. "About Blake." "Yeah." "Alex, if this is about the beach house, I know you're probably hurt that he didn't ask your opinion, but it's been sitting there for years. And Rachel, please just have coffee with me." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay. Tomorrow." "Tomorrow." We met at a cafe halfway between her house and the city. She showed up in athletic gear and sunglasses looking like she'd just come from the gym, but I could tell she'd been crying. The sunglasses weren't fooling anyone. "You look stressed," she said, sitting down. "I am." "What's going on?" I pulled out my laptop, took a breath. This was going to destroy her world, and I knew it. But she deserved the truth. "I need to show you something." I showed her the deed, the county records, the tax payments, 5 years of rental income documentation, property management contracts, insurance policies, everything. She stared at the screen for a long time without saying anything. I watched her scroll through the documents, her expression changing from confusion to understanding to something that looked like grief. "I don't understand," she finally said, her voice small. "I bought it from Grandma's estate 5 years ago. I've been renting it out seasonally. It's been generating income, good income." But Blake lied. Her face went pale. "No, he said the family was handling the estate transfer. That it was complicated. That he was helping coordinate everything. There was no transfer. I bought it outright in 2019. The estate closed 6 months later. Everything's been legally settled for years. I have all the paperwork, every tax payment, every rental contract. It's all documented." "Then why would he?" She stopped, looked at me. Oh God. The announcement at Dad's party? That wasn't real. None of it was real. I showed her the contractor's messages, the photos of work being done without my authorization, the forged permits, explained how Blake had hired someone to renovate a property he didn't own using fake documentation, how that contractor was 3 weeks into the job and Blake owed him $15,000. Rachel's hands started shaking. "This is a mistake. He probably just, Rachel, look at the permit numbers." I checked them in the county database. They don't exist. He created fake government documents. She looked. I pulled up the county permit system on my laptop, showed her how to search, showed her the permit numbers Blake had given Tony, then showed her the database results. No permits found. I watched her face change as reality settled in, the denial fading, the understanding creeping in, the devastation following close behind. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Since Dad's birthday party. The contractor contacted me that night, and you didn't tell me. I wanted to have proof first. I wanted to make sure I wasn't wrong." "Are you wrong?" "No." She put her head in her hands. "Oh God, I'm sorry." "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." She looked up, eyes wet. "What are you going to do?" "I need to file a police report. The contractor's already talking to a detective." "This is fraud, Rachel. It's a crime. He's my husband." "I know. We have 2 kids." "I know." She was crying now. Real tears. Not the performative kind. "How could he do this? I don't know. Was it just the beach house? Or has he been lying about other things? I hadn't thought about that." "I don't know." She pulled out her phone, scrolled through something. 6 months ago, he said he'd gotten a promotion, that his salary was increasing, but we never saw the extra money. He said it was going into investments. What kind of investments? He wouldn't give me details, said it was complicated, said I should trust him. Red flag. Big red flag. "Rachel, you should talk to a lawyer, not about divorce necessarily, but about protecting yourself and your kids financially." I can't believe this is happening. We sat there in silence while she processed. Other customers came and went. The barista called out names. Life continued around us while my sister's world collapsed. "What happens next?" she finally asked. "I'm going to file a police report tonight. The detective will probably want to talk to Blake. The contractor will likely sue for payment. Can he go to jail? Possibly fraud, forgery, theft by deception. Depends on how the DA wants to charge it." She wiped her eyes. "Our kids. I know. Everyone's going to find out." "Yeah. Dad's going to be devastated." "Dad believed Blake's lie. That's not on you." She looked at me. Really? Looked at me. "Why didn't you say something at the party when he was lying to everyone?" "Because I needed to be sure. And because I wanted to give you a chance to hear it from me first." "Thank you. You're my sister." She started crying again. "I'm so sorry for all of it. For not asking about the house, for not checking with you, for just assuming." "Don't. I should have. We all should have. We should have asked you what you'd done with Grandma's house, who'd been maintaining it, who'd been paying the taxes. We should have paid attention, but they didn't, because Blake was charming and confident and knew exactly what to say. And I was just Alex. I filed the police report that night. Detective Karen Mills from the Property Fraud Division called me the next morning. "Mr. Bennett, I've reviewed your report and the documentation you provided. This is pretty clear-cut fraud. I'm going to need to interview Mr. Foster. He doesn't know I reported it yet. That's probably better. Can you come down to the station this afternoon? I want to get your full statement on record. I spent 2 hours at the Riverside County Sheriff's Station going through everything. Detective Mills was thorough. Mid-50s, 22 years on the force patient, and methodical. She had this way of asking questions that made you want to tell her everything, like she genuinely cared about getting to the truth. We went through it all. Timeline of my purchase documentation of ownership, the rental income history, the property management contracts the night of my dad's party, and Blake's announcement, the contractor's contact, the forged permits. Every detail mattered. Has Mr. Foster attempted to contact you directly? She asked, making notes in a worn leather notebook. No, he doesn't know. I know. As far as he's concerned, everything's going according to plan. And your sister, I told her 2 days ago. She's trying to process it. She had no idea. Has she confronted him? I don't know. I told her to talk to a lawyer first, protect herself and the kids before he knows the walls are closing in. Detective Mills made more notes. Smart advice. We've seen cases like this before. When people realize they're caught, they sometimes do desperate things. Empty bank accounts, take out loans, try to hide assets. You think he might do that? I think desperate people do desperate things, Mr. Bennett. And your brother-in-law sounds desperate to me. She walked me through what would happen next. Search warrant for Blake's residence and electronic devices. They'd be looking for evidence of the forged documents, communications with the contractor, anything that showed intent to defraud financial records that might show motive other potential victims or fraudulent schemes. We're going to execute a search warrant on his residence. Look for evidence of the forged documents, communications with the contractor, anything that shows intent. When? Probably next week. I need to coordinate with the DA's office. We want to make sure everything's done by the book, no mistakes that could compromise the case. What about the contractor, Tony Morales? He's filing a separate civil suit, but his evidence supports the criminal case. Forged permits alone are enough for serious charges. Add in the fraud against a contractor, the attempted theft by deception, and we're looking at multiple felony counts. Could he do prison time if convicted? Absolutely. This isn't white-collar crime where people get a slap on the wrist. He forged government documents. That's serious. The DA doesn't mess around with that kind of thing. I left the station feeling strange, like I'd set something in motion. I couldn't stop, which was exactly what I'd done. 3 days later, my father called. Alex, what the heck is going on? What do you mean? Rachel called me crying. Said something about Blake and fraud in the beach house. She wasn't making sense. I took a breath. Dad, I own the beach house. I bought it from Grandma's estate 5 years ago. Blake doesn't own it. He never did. Silence. He hired a contractor to renovate it using forged permits. The contractor's 3 weeks into the job, and Blake hasn't paid him. I filed a police report. There's an active investigation. More silence. Dad, you're telling me Blake lied at my birthday party in front of the whole family? Yes. And you knew I found out that night. The contractor texted me during the party and you didn't say anything. I wanted to have all the facts first. I wanted to talk to Rachel privately. I wanted to handle this the right way. The right way would have been to expose him immediately, so Rachel could be humiliated in front of everyone in real time. That stopped him. She's your daughter, I said quietly. I protected her as much as I could. Another long silence. I can't believe this, he finally said. Neither can I. What happens now? The police investigate. The DA decides whether to press charges. The contractor sues. Blake faces consequences. And Rachel, she's talking to a lawyer about protecting herself and the kids financially. Jesus Christ. Yeah. He hung up without saying goodbye. The search warrant came through on a Tuesday morning. Detective Mills called me at 9:47. We executed the warrant at Mr. Foster's residence this morning. Wanted to update you on what we found. I was at my desk at work. Stood up. Walked to an empty conference room for privacy. What did you find? The forged permit templates on his computer. Multiple drafts, different versions. He'd been working on them for weeks, tweaking them to look more authentic. Email communications with the contractor where he explicitly claimed to own the property. Screenshots of your grandmother's obituary that he'd saved. Financial records showing he's underwater on credit card debt to the tune of $48,000. I sat down hard. $48,000. $48,372 to be exact, spread across 7 different cards, all of them maxed out or close to it, some in collections. The man's drowning financially. Rachel has no idea. Based on what we're seeing, he's been hiding a lot from her. Separate bank accounts she didn't know about. Credit cards in his name only. Loan applications for debt consolidation that got denied. He was desperate. He was desperate. Probably thought flipping the house would solve his money problems, pay off the cards, maybe pocket some extra cash. Except he doesn't own it, which is why it's fraud and not just bad business. Is he under arrest? Not yet. We're building the case for the DA, but it's coming. Mr. Bennett, this is solid. Multiple felony counts. The evidence is overwhelming. When DA is reviewing the case now, probably by end of week, they want to make sure we have everything before we move. No chance of him walking on a technicality. Detective Mills paused. I could hear papers shuffling on her end. There's something else you should know. My stomach dropped. What? We found evidence he was planning to take out a home equity loan against your property. He had loan applications filled out, forged your signature on the ownership documents, the whole thing. He was planning to borrow against a house he didn't own using your identity. The room tilted. Identity theft on top of everything else. He was going to take out a loan in my name. The applications show his name as the borrower, but he'd forged documents showing joint ownership. If the loan had gone through, you'd have been on the hook for payments on a loan you never agreed to. How much was he trying to borrow? $120,000 against an assessed value of $600,000 for the property. $120,000. The debt would have followed me for years, destroyed my credit, maybe even resulted in a lien against the property. That's why we're taking this so seriously. Detective Mills continued. This wasn't just opportunistic fraud. This was calculated, premeditated, multi-layered fraud. He'd been planning this for months. Rachel called me that night. They searched my house today. Her voice was flat dead. I know. Detective Mills told me Blake had a whole folder on his computer. Plans, budgets, loan applications, all for your house. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't do this. He did. She paused. The detective showed me the credit card statements. $48,000. I had no idea. I thought we were fine. I thought we were saving for the kids' college. What are you going to do? I already filed for legal separation. My lawyer says I need to protect myself and the kids from his debts. That's smart. Smart. She laughed bitterly. I married a con artist and didn't notice for 6 years. How is that smart? You're not responsible for his lies. Everyone thinks I knew. Dad, Mom, Uncle Greg, they all think I was in on it. Then they're idiots. She laughed again, this time genuine. Thanks. Do you need anything? No. I just wanted you to know I'm handling it. I'm not going to fall apart. I know you won't. And Alex? Yeah. I'm sorry for not asking about the house, for not paying attention, for letting Blake make you invisible. My throat tightened. You didn't. I did. We all did. And I'm sorry. The arrest came on Friday. Detective Mills called me at 2:13 in the afternoon. Blake Foster is in custody. Multiple counts of fraud, forgery, attempted theft. DA's office is pretty confident about prosecution. Bail set at $50,000. His lawyers arguing for reduction. I thought about the credit card debt, the lies, the desperate plan to steal my house. He won't make bail. Probably not. The hearing was 3 weeks later. I sat in the back of the courtroom and watched Blake shuffle while wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked smaller, deflated. The DA presented the case methodically. The forged permits, the contractor fraud, the attempted home equity fraud, the financial records showing motive. Blake's public defender tried to argue financial desperation, mitigating circumstances, first-time offender. The judge wasn't interested. Mr. Foster, you didn't just commit fraud. You committed elaborate, premeditated fraud involving forgery of government documents, defrauding a contractor, and attempting to steal property through fraudulent means. This demonstrates a pattern of deception. Bail was denied. Trial date set 3 months out. I left the courthouse and found Rachel waiting by my car. You came, I said. I had to see it. She looked exhausted. Is it wrong that I feel relieved? No. The kids asked where Daddy was. I told them he made some bad choices and has to deal with the consequences. That's honest. They're 8 and 6. They don't really understand. We stood there in the courthouse parking lot. 2 people trying to figure out how to move forward. What about the beach house? She asked. What about it? The contractor? Did he get paid? I settled with him, agreed to pay for the work since it needed to be done anyway. He's finishing the deck and bathroom at cost. That's generous. He was a victim too. She nodded. Are you going to sell it? No. I'm going to keep renting it. It's good income. Blake said you'd been wasting it, that it was just sitting there. Blake lied about everything. Yeah. She looked at me. I'm going to tell Dad the truth. About how you bought it years ago. About how you've been managing it. About how you handled this whole thing to protect me. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Because you're not invisible, Alex. And I'm done letting our family treat you like you are. The trial was quick. The evidence was overwhelming. Blake took a plea deal, 3 years minimum security, restitution to Tony Morales, permanent restraining order from my property. My father called me the night the plea was announced. I owe you an apology, he said without preamble. Okay. I believed Blake because he was loud and confident. I ignored you because you were quiet. That was wrong. Yeah, your grandmother would have been proud of you for buying the house, for managing it well, for handling the situation with integrity. Thanks, Dad. Thanks. I'm proud of you too. I should have said that years ago. I didn't know what to say to that. Anyway, he continued awkwardly, your mother and I want to have you over for dinner. Just you. Not a big family thing. Just us. I'd like that. I drove to the beach house 6 months after Blake's sentencing. Tony Morales had finished the renovations. Beautiful work, exactly what the place needed. New deck, updated bathroom, fresh paint throughout. The man had taken pride in his work despite everything that had happened.